Hello, everyone. I hope you can hear me well. We'll be starting in 14 minutes' time. I'm here already, and I would like to make sure whether you can hear me well. If you could respond to me, it would be great. And I'm opening your chats at the moment. Let's see. Let me open my chat screen. Okay, my colleagues tell me that it's all good and it's cool. Thank you very much. And let me see. Right. So we'll be talking about top tips about the IELTS exam today. And you will also have time for Q&A, questions and answers, at the very end of the session. So please do keep your questions till the end. And I'll see you in 12 minutes' time. Thanks for waiting. Hello, everyone. It's almost time. We're going to start. We said we're going to start at 5 o'clock and 1 minute to 5. And I'm already here. And I would like to make a soft start. First of all, I would like to welcome you to the British Council Success in IELTS webinar. Today is the 30th May, and I'm Seville, and I will be your IELTS trainer today. In today's session, we'll be covering very useful information and top tips about the IELTS exam. And I would kindly like to ask you to leave your questions till the end. I do have a set presentation, and I'll be following this throughout the presentation. And at the end, if I haven't covered something, by the way, I'm at the university I teach. This is the bell. You might be hearing it. I'm sorry for the disruption. It will finish in 10 seconds. And wow, it's time now. And let me just reorganize my screen. I'm going to open my chats here, and let's see. Let's delete this and move this around. And so I want to be seeing your chats. Okay. Well, there is one question from Banham already. All right. Okay. So, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the British Council's IELTS Success in IELTS webinar. Let me introduce myself once again. My name is Seville, and I'll be guiding you through tonight. All right, let's move on, please. I don't have the power to change the slides, so I'll be asking my colleagues at the British Council to do so. And here is our very brief slide. By the way, I do have some slides about the exam, how the exam is run, and some tips about the exam. And however, 7-8 slides later, we will have Hi Ruda. And hi, user PC. I don't see your name. And then we will be talking about the 4 exams individually. All right. So let's get through some basic stuff first, then the 4 tests. Right, let's get that straight. Okay, a very basic slide here. IELTS is, of course, the international English language testing system and is jointly owned by the British Council and 2 other institutions, as you see on the slide. Nothing more to say for the slide. Let's move on, please. All right, and now this slide is, again, another brief slide about the exam. Actually, I'm going to move these chats here. Sorry, still organizing my screen, guys. That's a tricky business. I don't want any disruptions on my screen. So, right, your full page now. Perfect. Tatiana, I'm very happy that you're with us, listening to me. Enjoy the show. Right. I'm going to give you brief information about the IELTS test here, guys, on the slide. IELTS is an internationally recognized and respected test. And remember, it tests your ability to communicate in English language. It could be either for work or for study reasons. And it is designed to assess your 4 skills, which are obviously listening, reading, writing, and speaking. And remember, the exam is in that order: listening, reading, writing, and speaking. IELTS results range from band scores of 9 to 0. And please don't forget, IELTS is an international testing system. All accents are welcome. There are no cultural or linguistic bias. And at the end, it also says at the very end of the slide, variety of accents are used. Well, in the listening section, be prepared to listen to British accent as well as American, Australian, and even some foreign accents. So be prepared. Having said that, I think we can move on to the next slide. All right, why choose IELTS? Well, I've been teaching IELTS for more than 15 years, and I know that more than 2 million candidates take the IELTS exam every year, and is currently, I'm proud to say, the most popular English test in the world. It's recognized by over 9,000 organizations around the world. And remember, it's recognized in America, in Canada, in England, obviously, in Australia, and in European countries as well. If your plan is to study at one of these places, IELTS is the test. And the accessibility of the test is one of the advantages for our candidates, since it's available up to 4 times a month in 7 different locations in Turkey. And I can also give you information later about the availability and the frequency in your countries as well. Paper-based format is another advantage. Most of our students, well, most of my students actually, say that they're more familiar with paper-based exams, and that's one of the reasons why they prefer to take the IELTS. But remember, IELTS UKVI is also available in the computer version. I want to say that. I want to add that. And as many of you might already know, there are 2 different modules in the IELTS exam, the academic module and the general training module. Now, we will talk about these modules further later in the presentation. Now, I'm just going through the 4 items on the slide. I think I've extended all. Let's move on, please. Right. Which IELTS test is best for me? Well, ladies and gentlemen, I can give you some brief information first, but then this slide will end with an advice, with a piece of advice. Now, before deciding, well, actually, I can say that to further your studies at postgraduate or undergraduate levels, you need to take the academic module. And to further your studies at secondary level or to live and work in an English-speaking country, you might need to take the general training module. But now the advice bit. I suggest you always check with the receiving organization. I think it's best to make sure you you register for the right type of exam. And I have last time I ran Success in IELTS seminar, we used to have a poll question at this very moment. If it's ready, we can go for it. If not, I can ask the candidates to write their answers in the chat box. Let me just wait for 5 seconds max. All right, okay. So the poll question didn't appear, no problems. Now, I want you to answer one question. Are you planning to take the academic test, academic module of the IELTS, or the general training module? Could you type your answers, please? Let me see what tonight's participants are going after. And academic, thank you very much, Daniel. Snezza, general, all right, okay. So there are both academic and general test takers. It means that we have to give equal balance to both modules. Great, good to know that. Thank you very much for your answers, guys. And the next slide is already here. I'm glad it is. And my colleague said that there is a very tiny technical problem, but it's all right. Thank you very much for letting me know. But we can definitely use the chat box if I really need to contact you. Thanks for that. And Angin, thank you very much as well for your answer. Right, guys, this is the basic test format. Remember, well, not remember, actually, as you can see, the listening and the speaking modules are in the same color in both modules. Listening, purple, and speaking, purple too. Now, the listening test is the same, regardless of whether you're taking the academic or the general training module. The speaking test is also in the same format, everyone. However, that does not mean that every single question will be exactly the same. And reading and writing tests, as you see, the different colors are slightly different on each test. I will talk about the differences again in detail later in the presentation. Now, what else? Well, of course, let's not forget to mention the timing of the test. IELTS takes 2 hours, 44 minutes, plus 10 minutes transfer time, which will be given to you at the end of the listening test. All about it right there. Next slide, please. Right, the band scale. Now, as I have already said, IELTS results range from band scores of 9 to 0. And the IELTS 9 band system is used to measure and report as well scores in a consistent manner. IELTS examiners are trained in line with globally accepted standards to ensure consistency and equality of their assessments. And well, we won't focus too much on the band scores today, but if you would like to get further information, you can find band descriptors on the public versions of band descriptors on takeielts.britishcouncil.org, takeielts.britishcouncil.org, or just go on Google, just say band descriptors, IELTS British Council, you will get the band descriptors. What is required to get 7, to get 8, and more. So have a look at that. And can I kindly ask you one more question? And I want you to type your answers, please. What is your target score in the IELTS exam? Let's have a look. A 9, Daniel. I hope you get it. Aman. Wow. 8 to 8.5. 6, 7, at least 7.5. Well, so far, except from Abzal, so far I haven't seen anything less than 6. So we've got a lot of high achievers on tonight's show. Right. Okay. And it's your first time, Abstar. Good luck to you. So listen to me very carefully. By the way, guys, remember this link, this recording actually, tonight's recording will be sent to you tomorrow. So you can listen to me as many times as you like. Don't worry. So just focus on the presentation and what I say. Remember, if you have questions, wait till the end. Take notes of your questions if you like, and try to get the most of it. If you miss something, do not worry. You will be able to listen to me later again. Now. I've got all your scores. Thank you very much for your votes, for your answers. We can move on. Right. TRF, as I always say, test report form. After you take your IELTS exam, you will be sent one personal copy of the test report form. Maximum 5 digital copies of the test report form may be sent to the organizations you are planning to apply. If you would like to get more than that, it's also available, but there will be some extra charges that you should know. All right. Nothing more actually on that slide. Very brief. And now. Now, the most important part of the show is about to start. I will give information about the 4 tests. Now, as an English teacher, as an 2004, as a 14-year-old teacher, 14-year-old, as a teacher who has 14 years of experience and also 10 years of IELTS teaching, I would like to give you some advice. If you really need to understand the format of the 4 tests, what is expected of you and the grading criteria. In other words, how you will be evaluated, how your work will be assessed. I think your job will be much easier if you know the format of the exam. And before we move on to the next slide, I've got one more question for you. What test do you find the most difficult in the IELTS test? Let me see. Writing is almost always the winner, by the way. Well, of course, there's been exceptions, but writing, there you are. Reading, but then writing. Of course, writing. Oh, yeah. Speaking, Narina, right. Okay. All right. So have I received any reading? There is one. There are 2 readings. Right. Okay. Writing, speaking. Wow. So I think speaking and writing have a tie tonight, I think. I haven't counted them, very accurately, but that's what it looks like. All right. Thank you very much for your votes again. So remember what I said? If you really want to get a good grade in IELTS, you really need to understand the format of the 4 tests and what we expect you to do. And this is what I'm going to explain, what the exam is about, what's the format, and how to manage, how to do well in these tests. Are you ready? Let's start the first one, speaking. Here we go. Right. I always start with the facts and figures, like the nitty-gritty of the test. So here we have the overview, in other words, of the speaking module. The speaking test, ladies and gentlemen, takes 11 to 14 minutes. The face-to-face, like this is a very friendly talk, by the way. The face-to-face nature of the IELTS speaking test is definitely an advantage for you. To be honest, it is as close to a real-life situation as a test can possibly get. You'll be speaking to a person, and you can use your body language and your mimics. It's not like talking to a computer, basically, or an answer phone or something like that. Remember, your speaking will be recorded throughout the test. This is not only to assess your speaking skills, by the way. We want to make sure you get the fairest assessment of your speaking abilities. And remember, you will be assessed on these 4 criteria. Let's read them through. Fluency and accuracy, vocabulary, grammar, and last but not least, pronunciation. And 4 marks will be averaged, and you will get your speaking score. So these are the facts of the speaking section. Let's move on, please. All right. Now, with this slide, let's delve into the speaking test. The IELTS speaking test is divided into 3 sections, 3 parts. Part 1 is the introduction and general questions. Well, on the slide, it says introduction and interview. I mean, very general questions. And part 2 is the long term, or we say cue card. And part 3 is the analytical discussion part, or simply discussion. In part 1, ladies and gentlemen, questions are quite general. And trust me on this one, you should be able to find something to say, even though you aren't interested in the topic. What else can I say? Well, I think you should be prepared to talk about your family, your house, hobbies, holidays, and I suggest you give extended answers rather than yes, no, maybe, yeah, kind of one-word answers. Please avoid these. This is something an examiner hates. Trust me on that one too. Try to extend your answers as much as you can. If you know the word elaborate, try to elaborate your answers as much as you can. And in part 2, you will be given a task card, which you cannot change, I'm afraid. You have to stick to what you're given. And then you will have 1 minute to think or prepare or, well, take notes. If you want to, you can, by the way. And you will be given 1 minute to do so. I mean, this preparation time will take 1 minute totally. So your notes cannot be that long, just a word long notes, really. Then, excuse me. Then you were expected to speak about this topic maximum 2 minutes. By the way, when I do trainings at schools with teachers and students, I practice this part, and it's more fun when I do it with teachers because they first think that this is an easy task. But when for example, I give them a topic, I start timing them, they start speaking, and then in the middle they say, "So, Seville, is my time up yet? How many more minutes? How many more seconds do I have?" And I say, "See, teachers, this is not easy. You need to familiarize yourself with the timing, with this task. You know, recording yourself on the voice recorder on your phone, or either speaking in front of a mirror. It's up to you. You should be able to speak about something for 2 minutes on your own. I think you should do this before you actually take the test. And in part 3, ladies and gentlemen, you will be discussing more abstract aspects of the topic from part 2 with the examiner. It means your part 2 and part 3 questions are linked. However, in part 3, it will be in the form of a discussion. The examiner will be taking more roles, more responsibility, unlike in task 2, in part 2. It will be in the form of a discussion. Simple as that. And I think I've covered everything, right? Put your topic part 2 with the exam. Yes, thank you very much. Right, now, on this slide, guys, you can see a sample part 1 question. Please have a look. I'll give you, just, let's say, 10 seconds to read the question. Now, as you might agree, this question does not require too many strategies, preparation, or prior knowledge. Now, look, how often do you watch television? Why not? Which television channel do you watch? Do you usually watch? Why? Do you enjoy the advertisements on television? Do you think most programs on television are good? Why not? Now, I selected that question deliberately on purpose because I personally don't have a television. You heard correctly. I don't have a TV. And to be honest, I haven't lived in a flat with a TV for the last, I started university in 2000, since 2001. I haven't lived in a house, in a flat with a TV, but I still can answer that question. Now, you don't have to have first-hand experience to answer this question. How often do you watch television? Why not? Well, it may sound awkward, it may sound strange, but I don't own a television. And I haven't had one in the last 2018, right? In the last 17 years. And the reason is, I think, regardless of the country you live in, TV does not offer anything cool. Finito. And, I could still answer that question well, although I don't have first-hand experience, personal experience with televisions, well, for more than 15 years. Which television do you usually watch? Why? Well, as I said, I don't watch TV at all. However, I do have a laptop, and from time to time, if my friends recommend something, I might have a look at it on YouTube or on that TV channel's website, but there are not many. Recently, I've come across Picasso on National Geographic, and I love it. There you are. And by the way, I love Picasso on National Geographic. That's a personal note. And, well, I don't have to answer the whole thing. You get the idea, right? Now, let's move on, please. And now, on this slide, you see, thank you very much. My water's arrived, guys. Sorry, I forgot to take water. So a very nice lady brought some water for me. Thank you so much. Now, on this slide, we have a sample part 2 and part 3 question. Please, again, I want to give you some time to read the questions, actually. And I'm trying to open my water. Sorry for the disrupting sounds. Right. And again, ladies and gentlemen, you see, you don't need a lot of strategies, but I think, by the way, as I said, I'm an English teacher and I understand your concerns. I know that you are concerned whether or concerned if something you have never thought of, never thought on comes up in the exam. I know about these concerns, but, actually, no, not but. That's why I think it's a good idea to think about certain things before you actually take the test. That's why I thought you should think about how to introduce yourself, how to talk about your health, how to describe your best friend, What else? I would also suggest for part 2 especially, think about one of your, or think about your favorite restaurant, your favorite museum, your favorite cafe, and why you like this sort of places. I think it's good to think about certain things before you take the test, in case you're asked, or in case you're asked something similar. Now, let's move on, please. And that disturbing sound is done. Now, speaking tips to remember. Right, I like this slide. And let me see. Yes, I have some notes. Right, I need to read something. Speak it. Yes, okay. Now, ladies and gentlemen, and this is also a good idea to talk about this, isn't it? Right, okay. Now, guys, you see a list on the screen, do's and don'ts, and have a look at those, please. And while you're looking at that, I'm going to read something. Now, this is from About Speaking. This is IELTS Speaking Band Descriptor, Band 7 for Fluency and Coherence. I mean, to reach Band 7 in Fluency and Coherence criterion. Remember, there were 4 criteria. Now, this is one of the criteria, fluency and coherence. And remember, I said you will get 1 grade for each, 1 score for each, and then it will be averaged. So, to reach 7 in fluency and coherence, the IELTS band descriptor says, the candidate speaks at length without noticeable effort or loss of coherence, may demonstrate language-related hesitation at times or some repetition, and or self-correction. Now, what does that mean? It means it is okay to make mistakes. You can reach band 7 with this. And it is okay to correct yourself. People make mistakes while speaking in their native language, and this is perfect and normal. I've made mistakes. Since I started the webinar, this is acceptable. What did I do? I either corrected myself, even, smiled about it and moved on, or you can forget about it and make sure you don't make that mistake again. I want you to focus on your communication. I want you to speak clearly and elaborate your answers. In other words, give extended answers. These are the most important things. And about the don'ts. Now, speaking from experience, please do not try to memorize large portions of speech to repeat during the test. This undoubtedly adds unnecessary stress and also sounds unnatural. I do not recommend this approach at all. And oh yes, do not try to speak faster in order to sound more fluent. It doesn't work. It will just result in blocking your communication with your examiner. So don't do it. And don't forget, English is the only communication language, is the only language you need to communicate in throughout the IELTS test. Do not use your first language unless it's English, I say. And as I said, don't worry about your mistakes. And, well, it isn't the number of grammatical mistakes that matters, but how seriously these mistakes block your communication. Focus on your communication and focus on expressing yourself as well as you can. That's all you should do. Next slide, please. Right. I have added these FAQs to our presentation because you guys ask these questions very frequently. Now, the first question is, how can candidates improve their speaking? Listening to a wide range of authentic English materials will help you a lot. First, it will help you become familiar with more words, phrases, as well as pronunciation features, obviously. These are vitally important while improving languages. And let's think. Listening to BBC radio, lectures, podcasts, or TEDx, TED videos. Podcasts, as I said, is a good idea. And start working on subjects that interest you first and then move on with others. Recording yourself while speaking and listening to it later, as I said earlier, is something I suggest my students, and they say it's working. And remember, after you record yourself, no, actually during your recording yourself, try to apply, try to practice what you'll learn from the listenings. While you're listening to yourself, pay attention to your fluency, pauses, hesitations, and choice of words. So, in contrast to the traditional disclaimers, this is something you can and you should try at home, guys. And does the candidate's accent affect the score? No, obviously not. I've said this at the very beginning of the presentation. There are no cultural or linguistic bias in the IELTS test, as long as you speak clearly. And well, that's all really. And number 3, this is very important. Can candidates ask clarification questions during the IELTS speaking test? Yes, you can. You're allowed to ask one clarification question in each part of the speaking test. So in each part, it makes 3 questions in the whole speaking test, right? In one question each part. So feel free. And the examiner is, no, I'm sorry, I can't read your name, but of course it's live. I am here, Serhi. It's live, and please, if you have any questions, take notes of these questions, and please fire them at the very end of the webinar. All right? And so I was saying you can ask 3 clarification questions during the whole speaking test. And I think that's a relief. All right, let's move on, please. Wow, the listening. Are you ready, guys? Are you ready? Good. Just trying to hear from you. I'm a typical teacher. I want to communicate with my students. Thank you so much. You're there. It's good to know that you're there. Otherwise I feel as if I'm talking to a screen. No, don't be sorry, Aliyah. Oh, I'm just being spoiled here. Thank you so much for your responses. Right. Now the listening module. Right. Again, I'm going to thank you very much, Dennis Eric and Aman and Nuga. Good to know you're there. Perfect. Aman, I understand you, but I just wanted to hear from you. Right. Thank you very much again. And again, we're going to start with the review, with the basics of the listening test. The listening test is designed to assess your ability to understand spoken English, of course. And the test includes 40 questions spread over 4 sections and in half an hour, plus 10 minutes transfer time at the very end of the test. And bad news, you will hear all the recordings once only. But the good news, the answers are in order. You don't need to go back and forth to find the correct questions to your answers. Find the correct answers to your questions, I meant, sorry. Let me see. Oh, okay, I understand. All right, no worries. I hope when you receive the recording tomorrow, you will, first of all, it wasn't a full question. No, I thought it was obvious. That's why I was shocked with the question. And I hope you will watch it again tomorrow or you listen to it and quality would be much better. Right. So 40 questions, 4 sections. The recordings will take half an hour and there will be 10 minutes extra time at the very end of the test for you to transfer your answers from the question booklet to the answer sheet. And I've already given the bad news. Recordings will be heard once only. I've also given some good news. The answers are in order. You don't need to go back and forth, I said, remember, and I made a mistake. I said you don't need to go back and forth to find the correct find the correct answers to your questions. Why am I doing this? I don't know. By the way, I woke up very early today. Yeah, that might be the reason. I started my day at 6 today, and I don't normally do that. So, excuse me, guys. And let's move on to the next slide, please. So that's the good news at the very top. Answers appear in order. And, variety of tasks are. Okay, now I would like to give you some extra information. Ladies and gentlemen, to begin with, I think it's good to say the recordings get harder as you progress through the test. So, it means all is perfect. Thank you very much for your kind words, guys. So, part 1 in the listening will be the easiest part. Part 2, a little more difficult. Part 3, a little more difficult. And part 4 is the hardest. And part 1, 2, 3, or section 1, 2, 3 will be divided into 2 sections. You will hear a part of a conversation, and you will answer, say, 4 questions. There will be a break. Then you will read. You will have some time to read the next group of questions, and then you will need to answer the rest of the questions. I mean, the other 6. So, section 1, 2, and 3 in the listening will all be divided into 2, but section 4 will not be divided into 2. You need to read 10 questions, then the recording will come, and you will answer 10 questions at one go. And to be honest, IELTS listening module is quite friendly, quite candidate friendly, because as I've said, you are given time ahead of the recording to read the questions, so you know what you need to listen to, what you need to catch in the recording. Then the recording will come, and you will answer the questions as the recording goes. And after each section, after section 1, section 2, section 3, and section 4, you have time to check your answers. So while you're listening to the recording, while you're trying to catch the answers, don't worry about your spelling. Don't worry about your capitalization. Write what you hear. You can check it later. And remember, what you write on your question booklet does not matter. It doesn't count. What you write on the answer sheet will count. So make sure you are super, super careful while you're transferring your answers from the question booklet to the answer sheet. All right. Was that clear, by the way, guys? I hope it was. And yes, perfect, Aliyah and Samat. Alma, thank you so much. I just want to make sure this gets, you get it correctly. And Danielle, I'm glad you get it correct. Hamida, Lenovo, great. Galaxy S4, thank you very much. I hope that's not your name. And let's see. We talked about this. Time given ahead of everything is clear, Tatiana. I'm glad you feel that way. Super, Nuga. I'm really happy that you guys are happy. Great. So we've covered everything on this slide, right? I'm just reading it through. Yes, all done, all done. Thank you very much. Now, let's see. Listening tips to remember. Now, guys, while you are... Oh, sorry, I just lost my headphone. Now put it back in. Right. When time is given to you to read the questions ahead of the recording, with your pencils in your hand, remember you need to use a pencil. With your pencils in your hands, I think you should look for keywords. Underline or circle them when you first look at the questions. Make sure you understand what types of answers are needed. When you're given time, this time to read the questions, you should predict as much as you can. For example, could this question be looking for a number, a day, a name? If it's a name, maybe spelling will come. I need to be prepared. Could this be an adjective? Try to predict what you need to catch. Your job will be easier that way. And I need to warn you about one thing. Beware of distractors. Just because you hear something for the first time doesn't mean that it is the correct answer. When you're listening to the speaker, the speaker might go back and reverse the answer, and you need to update your answers too. This almost always happens. So, and I think it's important to remind that there are no yeah. It just came to my mind, of course. Well, I was going to say it's important to write fast and to be able to read your own writing, because remember, you need to transfer your answers later. But the most important thing is there are no penalties for wrong answers in the IELTS. In many countries, there are let's say if you make 3 mistakes or 4 mistakes, it takes away 1 correct answer, sort of thing. In IELTS, we don't have that. So technically, a blank question and an incorrect question are the same. So I suggest you make a wild guess. It might be true, who knows? Attempting all the questions is a good idea in the IELTS exam. Don't leave any answers blank. All of the answers. Oh yeah, all of the answers are on the recording. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. The 5th item on the slide. I did not mention that. I think you don't need to guess or forecast something, or we don't require you to have any prior knowledge. All the answers to the questions are on the recording. That's all. And we're done with that slide. And I'll take a sip of water if you don't mind. That was a big sip. Excuse me. And the first question. How can candidates improve their listening skills? Well, it's extremely important to practice listening to a wide range of authentic resources. And that might include, well, guys, not only TV series, I have to say, but also podcasts, educational videos, lectures, documentaries. Well, all my students are big on watching TV series. That's why I made that joke. Absolutely, audiobooks are great. Watching TV series can help you with section 1 and section 2 in the IELTS listening. But guys, section 3 and 4 are almost always about scientific, technical, sophisticated issues, topics. They are lectures. So TV series may not help you with those. So as Abzal said, audiobooks and documentaries, lectures, and podcast, National Geographic, Hamida, absolutely, they might come in handy. That might be very useful to you. And, well, I'm afraid there is no substitute for good practice. I mean, whatever you listen to, all these things taken into account, audiobooks, National Geographic, I said documentaries, educational videos on TED.org, amazing resource, and lectures, and so on. They're all good, I think. And if you have a smartphone or a tablet, you may download many free British Council applications. Let me remember, what do I use? I use Learn English podcasts, and my favorite application is Audio and Video. Like, this is the name of the application, Audio and Video. They're so good. I use it in my lessons as well. And if you want to find more, I think learnenglish.britishcouncil.org and take IELTS.britishcouncil.org are very good resources. I highly recommend them. How will candidates hear the recordings? All recordings will be heard by all candidates at the same time, not individually. And a vital question, the third one, are spelling and capitalization important in the IELTS listening test? Yes, a big yes. Please be careful with your spelling and capitalization. If you misspell or miscapitalize a word, your answer will be counted incorrect. Imagine very common mistakes. Well, guys, let me write. all panelists and attendees. Useful, harmful with one L, and government. That N is almost always forgotten. So, and many more. Please be careful, all right? And pay attention to your spelling. And London, this is how we spell London, right? With a capital L. And let's say Kiev and Russia, you cannot use a small K or R while you're writing these words. Capitalization and spelling are very important. Next slide, please. Oh, reading. There we are. Let's go. All right. Again, facts and figures. The reading test, everyone, includes 40 questions. Remember, the listening test also included 40 questions. So listening and reading, you will have to answer 40 questions in each text. Oh, the bell, I'm sorry. Another 6 seconds, it will stop. I'm sorry. I was saying the reading test includes 40 questions spread over 3 articles. And you got 1 hour to answer these 40 questions. And now, I'm glad it's over because this is the most important part. Unlike the listening test, you will not be given extra time to transfer your answers. No extra time to transfer your answers. So you need to do it as you are answering the questions. Now, some of my students transfer after each question. Some of my students transfer after each section, but you need to be very careful with your time management. If you trust yourselves, I do too. Go ahead with whichever way works better for you, basically. And what else do I need to say? I'm going through the items on the slide. Oh, right. Again, pencil only. Right. I think I did not mention that. In the reading and listening sections of the IELTS test must be written in pencil only. In the writing section, however, if you think it would be easy for you to write with a pencil, with a pen, with a pen, you can do so, but not in the listening and the reading modules, I'm afraid. Let's move on, please. I'm also checking my notes. Oh, yes, I had fully covered that slide. Right. Reading texts. Okay, now look at the first item. It says, topics are interesting, appropriate, and accessible for non-experts. Now, this may sound like a light item. Like this is the criticism I received a lot of times. But I really think IELTS reading texts are interesting. I can give you one example. This is, I believe, I'm checking my notes. Yeah. It's from Cambridge IELTS Past Papers Book 8, Test 1, Reading Text 1. Now, the title is Chronicle of Timekeeping. Guys, I love this text. I've recently studied it with my students, and this text talks about, well, let me remember. It talks about how people measured time throughout history and how the way they measured time changed after the invention of the artificial light and after the advent of the mechanical clock. So how we measured time and how it changed over the thousands of years. Now, I bet every single one of you on tonight's show here would like to read this article in your native language. I'm sure. Because it's fun, it's intellectual, and it's something our ancestors went through, experienced in their lives. It's like our grandchildren reading about how smartphones, tablets, and internet changed our lives, our habits, physically and mentally. So I think it's fun. And remember, most of these articles are taken from reputable newspapers, magazines, and journals. And the point I'm going to make is, after speaking for so long, you should read newspaper, magazine articles to be able to score a good grade in the IELTS exam. IELTS reading test in specific. Now, these texts, IELTS reading texts, are not designed for English learners. They're designed for, they're authentic materials designed for native speakers, designed for everyone, actually, not specifically to English learners. So that's why reading newspapers in English is a great idea if you want to familiarize yourselves with the IELTS reading texts. And let's do some maths now. I'm looking at 1, 2, 3, 4. Fourth item on the slide. 1 hour to answer 40 questions on 3 texts, approximately 20 minutes per text. Yeah. So 20 minutes per text. And look, divide 2,750 by 3. So if it was 8, 9, so 900 word on average, right? 900 words on each article, 20 minutes to go through the article and answer 13 to 14 questions. It's not easy, I know. But you need to be working on your reading skills. And I'm talking about 2 reading skills in specific: skimming and scanning. Now, let's move on to the next slide. And I would like to delve into actually these 2 skills on the next slide. Next slide, please. Thank you very much. Right. Before you take the test, guys, I believe you need to familiarize yourself with the different question types first, different task types. Remember, IELTS reading is not only ABCD, multiple choice. You have gap fills, matching, and multiple choice questions, and more actually. So, familiarizing yourself with different question types. And you should also practice your 2 reading skills, skimming and scanning. Now, what do they mean? Skimming means looking over an article or paragraph to identify the main idea, the key themes, general ideas. This includes paying attention to the title, subtitles, if there are any, keywords and topic sentences. Now, this is what you need to do first, skim. I suggest my students, they read the title and subtitles if there are any. Then read the first and the the first and the last sentence of each paragraph. If the paragraph is very long, I personally read 1 sentence from the middle. Random middle sentence, then I go forward. Then I look at the questions with extra attention, with a lot of care. I actually read the questions word by word. Then I start scanning the text. Nuga, you're right. Topic sentence could be the second one, possible, but the first sentence would still give you an idea about the paragraph. So still not a waste of time, I think. Then I start scanning the text back and forth, trying to find the correct answers to the reading questions. And like the listening test, again, there are no penalties for wrong answers. Again, I suggest you attempt all the questions here. Take note of the topic, main argue development, yeah. All right, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7th item on the slide. Make sure your answers are in the correct spaces on the answer sheet. Guys, this is very important. I don't want you to lose this exam, lose all your effort, all the financial resources you make. So please make sure you put your answers in the correct spaces on the answer sheet. Extremely important. I think I'm done. Now, frequently asked reading questions. Number one, how can candidates improve their reading skills? Guys, sometimes I wish I had a magic wand or a spell, but I don't. I mean, there's no magic, but I know how you can improve your reading skills. You might not like the answer, by the way, but read as much as you can. Read newspapers, magazines, journals. The more variety, the better, for sure. I advise my students to read 2 articles on environmental issues, 2 articles on technology, and 2 articles of their own choice every week. Now, look, if you read 6 to 7 articles per week, you will see how fast and how much you improve in such short time. Really, trust me. And second question is, how can candidates use colored pens or pencils during the IELTS reading test? A big no, you can't. Only your pencil. Number 3, how can candidates skim and scan efficiently? Well, we've covered this already. I think I've explained it in detail, but I don't mind repeating again. Don't read the article intensively to begin with, remember, and skim the article quickly. Some of my students say, "Oh, Seville, I look at the end of the paragraph, half, like middle and end. That's enough." Well, if it works for you, go ahead. But I suggest first and the last sentence. If it's a longer paragraph, pick 1-2 sentences in the middle randomly and read them too. And I've timed my students while doing this, by the way. It takes, by the way, not loudly, reading the text quietly. And with a pencil in your hand, underlining, circling words, keywords, key sentences, it takes maximum 2 minutes, 30 seconds, 2.5 minutes. Nothing more than that. And it shouldn't take more than that anyway. Right. So remember, we said skimming the entire the article quickly, get a sense for what the subject of the article is, and do not forget to look at the title, subtitles, headings, diagrams, and so on. Then read the questions carefully with specific purpose and scan the text. That's it. And do not expect to find the exact words in the article. Like in the words in the questions and the words in the article may not be the same. They might be using synonyms. So your vocabulary skills are important here. Just be aware. And let me give you an example. I've just taken notes here. You may see the word perk, P-E-R-K, in the text, let's say, but you might see the word advantage in the other. Or you might see the word drawback in the question, but in the text, you might see the word disadvantage. Actually, I should make a list of the most common synonyms. Very good idea. Okay, I'll definitely do this and share more words in the next Success for IELTS seminar or webinar, I should say. All right, I think we're done. Writing. Here we go. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I know most of you wrote that writing is one of the most difficult tasks. So let's start and let's see what this test requires. The writing test is divided into 2 parts, and remember, you're expected to answer both of these questions in 1 hour. It's not optional. You have to answer task 1 and task 2. Now, on this slide, AC refers to academic and GT refers to general training, as you might have guessed. Now, task 1 differs slightly depending on the module you're taking. In the academic module, you need to analyze a diagram. And applicants should identify, let's say, 3 to 4 main points in each diagram and describe what they see, like reporting of a diagram, of a chart. And candidates may also need to make comparison between data as well. In the general training, however, there is a letter writing of at least 150 words. Oh, by the way, yeah, the same word count, of course, applies to the academic test takers too. I mean, let me make this clear. In task 1, whether you're an academic test taker or a general training test taker, you must write 150 words. Does the word count matter? Yes. Do we count the words one by one? Yes. A big yes on those two questions. So you need to hit the word count to get a good grade. And I was talking about the general training letter writing. So you're writing a letter. The tone, the mode of the letter is specified in the question, whether it's going to be a friendly letter, whether it's going to be a formal letter. Our bell again rings. Sorry for that. Yeah, we have to tolerate this for another 5 to 6 seconds. And this one. So we need, Elena said, sorry. Yeah, come along. In the general training letter writing, I said the tone of the letter, whether it's going to be friendly, formal, it will be said, it will be given to you in the question. And, right, I've just remembered what I was going to say. I also wanted to say what you need to cover, what sort of things you need to mention in the letter will also be given. Don't worry about that. And we suggest you spend 20 minutes on the task 1. And for task 2, it's 40 minutes. Now, the total writing is 1 hour. No one will come and say, hello, time for task 1 is over, now time for task 2. No, you are doing this under your own time management. And these are only recommended times. Some of my engineering students at the university I work, they think it's easier. They think it's easier to write task 2. They think it's easier to write task 1. So they spare only 15 minutes on this task, and they want to spare more time on task 2. That's perfectly fine, but you just need to try it before you take the exam, basically. All right? And ladies and gentlemen, in task 2, both academic test takers and general training test takers are writing an essay, and the essay should be at least 250 words. And the recommended time, as I've already said, is 40 minutes. Now, this essay should be written in 4 paragraphs minimum. And an introduction, 2 body paragraphs if possible, 2 development paragraphs. I don't know how you want to address them, and 1 conclusion. And where you're standing, your idea must be very clear. I hope that's clear enough. Now, Elena from Albania, Elena says, I wanted to say we need to be careful not to use more words. It is specified. Now, Elena, I think you're trying to ask whether you can exceed 150 words for task 1 and 250 words for task 2. If that's what you're asking, you can pass them. Oh, yes. Elena says yes. And my answer is you can pass these numbers, but remember, the British Council believes that this task could be achieved within 150 words for task 1 and 250 words for task 2. So you can write 280 for task 2, 175 for task 1. But if you write 350 words, it's a bit too much. I suggest you don't exceed 190 words for task 1 and 300 words for task 2. And you're very welcome, Elena. Now, Tatiana says, do we count articles and prepositions? Of course, Tatiana. All the articles, a, and, the, in, of, in, they're all counted, and and even numbers are counted as words too. It's important for task 1. And numbers, Nuga, exactly. That's what I've just said. So don't worry. We appreciate your writing. We appreciate your effort. All of these are counted as words. Was that a good answer? I hope that was. Now, British Council, please turn the slide. Let's move on to the next one. Thank you very much. Now, writing assessments. Now, ladies and gentlemen, we got 4 criteria for your writing. The first one is task achievement and task response. Task achievement for task 1 and task response for task 2. And cohesion and coherence and vocabulary and grammar, range, and accuracy. I'm looking at my notes, all right, okay. I've got some notes on the second one. Now, task achievement and task response, I think, are very straightforward. You understand that. And item 3 and 4, vocab and grammar, range, and accuracy, are also straightforward, I suppose. But what is cohesion and coherence? Now, cohesion and coherence refers to how logically your essay is organized. Is there an introduction paragraph? For task 1, is there an introductory sentence to present the data, to introduce the data? Then do your body paragraphs or the ideas in your body paragraphs agree with the introduction? And is your conclusion also relevant to what you had said earlier in your essay? This is what it refers to. Remember, your task 2 especially, your essay should be divided into paragraphs. And this is a very common mistake while I'm reading papers. For example, there is one idea in one body paragraph, and the second body paragraph is exactly talking about the same with different words. Now, this is a very big mistake. Each body paragraph should have different central ideas. That's what it's important. Now, Nuga says, what's the difference between well, they're almost the same. Okay. We don't have time to go into detail. That's why. So this refers to the logical organization of your essay. Let me put it shortly that way, darling. And let's move on, please. Right. Okay. So writing tips to remember. You see that there is a list. I've made a list for you. While you're reading that, I'm going to read something. I would like to introduce you the concept of power writing, power as strength. P-O-W-E-R. P for plan, O for organizing, W for writing, plan, organize, write, E for evaluating, and last, revising, R. So plan, organize, write, evaluate, revise. I think you guys all need to make a very small plan, very short plan before you start your essay. Like, where you stand, what's your opinion sentence? I know at American colleges or at universities, thesis statement is a more popular term, but I just simply say opinion sentence. What's your opinion sentence? And what are 2 examples to support your opinion sentence? So this power writing could work as a map and help you, hopefully. And by following this map, I think you will all produce great work. Now, PIVA, what's that, Hamida? If you could explain, I could take it from there. And word count is very important. Now, here, when I say this, the most common question is, what will I lose if I write 149 words for task 1 and 249 words for task 2? Well, there is not a simple answer for this, but if the word count is not met, is not hit, we'll look at the content. If the content is weak, you might lose a lot of points, even a bend, I don't know. But if the content is strong, you may not lose a lot. But why would you take a risk? Don't take a risk and hit the word count. Now, for you, not to... So I suggest you go on the British Council's website and download IELTS writing answer sheets. They are available online. And you would see an original IELTS writing sheet. And I suggest you practice on these writing sheets so you would know how your 150 word looks like on the IELTS sheet. So you can only count the lines rather than each word one by one. And the same thing applies for task 2. All right. And let's go to the next slide, please. All right. You see a sample task 2 question here. Let me read it out loud for you. Now, this is a recent IELTS task 2 topic. Countries are becoming more and more similar because people are able to buy the same products everywhere in the world. Do you think this is a positive or a negative development? Give reasons for your answer and include any relevant examples from your own knowledge or experience. Write at least 250 words. Now, imagine this comes in the exam, in your exam. Why don't you try this tonight and see what you can write about it? Challenge accepted? I hope it is. And let's move on to the next one, please. Okay, almost done. Right. Writing frequently asked questions. How can candidates improve their writing skills? Now, I know this is a big challenge. I think you guys all should start with reading good sample answers. And on the British Council website, there are many sample answers for both task 1 and task 2, and on both modules, academic and general training. So go with these samples first, see what is expected of you, obviously, then start writing your own. Describe a successful task 1 essay. I think I've already described it. For the academic test takers, you should write an introductory paragraph or a sentence where you introduce the data, and then you write a detailed paragraph describing 3 to 4 main trends, main features of the data. And an overall paragraph, I would say, where you refer to the most distinctive features of the data, 1 or more pieces, I don't know. And there was one more thing I wanted to say. You should also, you can also use your superlatives in this overall paragraph, the highest, the lowest, the biggest, etc. And for the general training test takers, I think it's very important to address all parts of the question. You need to mention everything required in the question in your letter. Extremely important. All right. And the last question, I think it's obvious, spelling counts in the IELTS writing test. Needless to say. All right. Thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Now, let's move on, please. Oh, yes. Test days, do's and don'ts. All right. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I don't want you to lose your test. So I think, oops, I don't see the screen yet. Wait, let me see the screen. Right. I don't want you to lose your effort and everything you put into this exam. So arrive in good time. It will be specified in an email, so make sure you stick to the time frame and make sure you have the right ID with you. If you register the test with your passport, you have to take the exam with your passport. Your national ID will not be counted and you will not be accepted to the exam. So this is extremely important. Make sure you have the right ID with you. And I know this may sound a bit silly, but this is an important exam. You might be stressed. Please check the details, the location, time, hotel, venue, everything when you book the test, not later. Don't leave these things till the last minute. And you will be allowed to take a pen in case you need it for the writing part. Remember, you are allowed to use a pencil in the writing if you want. So a pen, pencil, eraser, and your ID on your desk. That's all. I'm afraid your smart gadgets, super smartphones are not going into the exam room with you. And let me see. Well, that's all really. And now, Road to IELTS. Road to IELTS is very important. When you register your exam, when you register actually with the British Council, you have 30 hours of free IELTS study materials. You will be given the access. Please require Road to IELTS e-learning access. I think it's very cool. And then we've got the website, britishcouncil.org/take IELTS. And I love this. I use it in my lessons, learningenglish.britishcouncil.org. I think it's a lot of fun. And I know most of you use smartphones. So IELTS Word Power is an application dedicated to IELTS only. It's exclusively for IELTS, IELTS Word Power. That's really cool. And besides that, there are many free British Council applications. I've mentioned one of those. It was audio and video. I think it's really cool. There are very short documentary-like videos on this application. And there are very, I think, IELTS-like texts included. So go for that as well. And that's it. And, well, do we have another slide? Let me see. Oh, that's my thank you slide. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to stay here a bit longer and I would like to hear your questions. Let's see what questions have you got, guys, before I actually leave. So, dear Seville, thank you very much for your assistance. I believe that your first 3 sections I can prepare myself. For the writing, I need a coach. Do you think, well, you could in Turkey, for example, the British Council does not run any courses. Since I cannot see your name, I can't have a hint about where you're from, where you live. You might get assistance from the British Council as well. And, oh yes, so Emil from Azerbaijan, thank you. Let me check what we could offer in Azerbaijan, Emil. Did you enjoy the presentation, by the way? Danielle, thank you for being here and thank you for listening. I hope I managed to help you. I'm glad. Wow. Sneza, thank you. And Nuga, thanks for all your contribution actually throughout the presentation. Oh, I'm glad you think it's productive. Lenovo. Lovely. I've earned a plus from Galaxy A5. It prepared me very well. Nerina, thank you for joining. Aman, very, very funny question there. Well, in Istanbul, many colleges want their native English teachers to take the test as well. And well, since they're very well-educated teachers with great skills, most of my friends have scored 9s. But I don't know, educated native speaker without any preparation, I think they would get a good score. Well, they might find reading a bit boring, I accept. I mean, a bit too long. Writing, analytical report writing, I mean, It might be hard if they haven't earned a degree, to be very honest with you, but they'll be okay, I suppose. And Nuga finds this very helpful. Thank you very much. You are most welcome, guys. So, I think it's time to say goodbye. Would it be possible to join? Exactly, Aliyah. I would run another webinar very soon on reading and writing, and there will be another webinar on listening and speaking. Please follow the British Council's website, and I'll be on. Brynimir, it's not that difficult, believe me. So I'm sure you'll do fine. Keep in touch. You're very welcome, Aliyah. Wow. Now, Angelina, very good question. Yes, you can. In the listening test, if you would like to write all not in the reading or any or writing, by the way, let me be very clear. This is tricky. In the listening test only. If you want to write the answers all in capitals, you can. And Kate, thank you too. Wow. Again, that's a few hours discussion, you know. Not the right time to discuss that question, I'm afraid. Well, if maybe you could reach me online, Aliyah, and we could discuss, but not the right time to discuss this either. No, Nuga, definitely not. You can't write all capital letters in the writing. Remember, these are all formal essay format stuff, so you can't use. Oh, yes, Ali, I have students because I work at a university. That's what I referred to. And I had students at the British Council as well. That's what I meant. If my thoughts are messy, well, Narina, that's a very vague question, I'm afraid. How messy? Now, I need to see some concrete essay to say, oh, this is too messy, or it's okay. It needs to be quite neat to make sure you get your point across, to be honest. I touch. That's another 2 hours debate, not the best place. Oh, yeah. And another smiley from me. Of course, Nuga. IELTS Word Power is the one exclusively for IELTS. And audio and video is one of my favorite applications about general English, but the level is quite high. So I think you would enjoy it. Well, Hamida, no one has ever asked for my email on these webinars, but you could definitely find it online. Handwriting now, Tatiana. Yes, your handwriting is very important. It should be legible. I remember I've got some friends, IELTS examiners, they had to send the essay to England because they couldn't read it themselves. It has to be read by an expert. And if we can't read it, we can't grade it. As simple as that. So your writing, yes, it is important. And well, especially for boys, I don't want to sound sexist, but boys write as legibly as possible. Girls, I know you're a little better. And I'm trying to be humble by saying a little better, by the way. I know how good you are. No, again, the speaking test in the IELTS is one-on-one with an IELTS examiner. Wait, I don't want to miss a question. Oh, yes. In the writing section, if you think that page is not enough, you might be given extra paper, but I think you shouldn't. I think you shouldn't write that long unless your writing is extremely big. Oh, but you say to write down some notes. No. So, Elena, I take it back. Elena, Albania, I take it back. you might be given, you can ask for extra paper if you want to, if your essay is too long and you want to continue, but you won't be given any paper to take notes. Make everything on your question booklet, please. Make your short plan on the side of the page. Now, I'm glad I did not miss that question. Can I write an essay in print letters? As long as it's okay, as long as it's internationally accepted letters, like examiners want to spend extra time deciphering your writing. So, yeah. Well, that's a very technical issue. I'm a teacher and I'm dealing with the examiners, teacher training, student trainings. These technical issues are not my thing at all. So I wouldn't have the answer to that. Well, yeah, Nuga, deciphering, experience speaking. Elena, no problems. I hope it was help. I'm also going. How do you motivate your students, Tatiana? Very hard. Let me see. I'm trying to make sure I did not miss any questions. Now, user PC says, "What about answer to my question?" So it means I must have missed a question. Very helpful. Is idea more important than spelling mistake in IELTS? Engin, these questions are very vague. I don't want to misguide you. I really need to see the essay itself. How many spelling mistakes are we talking about? I don't know. So it would be very wrong for me to answer this question at this stage. Oh yeah, useful links for the IELTS. I've shared to British Council. Can we go back to the materials? Thank you very much. Yes, this slide. Guys, look, these two websites I think are very good. And these will let you go to useful links too. So go with these two and see more. All right. I think that is the end of our webinar tonight. From what I read so far, you all think it was okay. And as a teacher, hearing great words from students is the best prize, as you know. Thank you all very much for attending tonight's webinar. And it was great to be here with you, reading all your comments, sharing information with you. It was amazing. Thank you so much and best of luck in your IELTS exam. Have a very good evening, guys. Bye-bye.